Hello everyone, hope you're all doing well. Gonna have a Crossout video for us today, guys. Now in today's video we are going to be going over a completely broken exploit in Crossout involving the new torpedo movement parts. And that exploit is basically that you can pair torpedoes with the Bigfoot wheels to act as sort of semi brakes on the build. Basically the Bigfoots will scratch across the ground and act and give you more traction on the build. This is a really big deal because for anyone who doesn't know how the torpedoes work, the torpedoes are basically like track builds and how they move, but you have far less actual traction, which makes sense because they're hovercraft, but you have far more speed and you have an incredibly powerful perk. Now, the perk of the torpedo is that between 80 and 115 kilometers an hour, you get up to 35% damage resist on the entire build, which is quite busted. Now, the torpedo, like I said, is an amazing movement part on paper, but there's one huge downside, and that is the control. Because you don't have much traction, you are going to be sliding around all over the place and bumping into things. But if you're able to negate a lot of that by adding Bigfoots to scrape a lot of ground and give you more traction, basically it's going to make the build OP. Like this build right here, for example, we've got Punishers. Because the torpedoes are so fast, you can put it on a fin wheel. So the guns are getting up to 50% damage resist. And then on top of that, they're also getting 35% damage resist from the torpedoes when you go in at high speed, which is very easy to do because torpedoes have, crazy acceleration. I do not understand how the developers could implement this torpedo movement part and not test its impact with other movements. Because the devs have made two huge mistakes with this torpedo bringing it into the game as it is. So the first mistake they did is that they didn't test it with other movement parts, for example, just to make sure that it's overpowered. Because this is something that should be, sorted out in the test server before it ever reaches the game. Because with the Bigfoots on the torpedoes, you are negating its biggest weakness to the point where it is very manageable now in its movement. The second big mistake they made with these torpedoes is that unlike the Bigfoot, so with most wheels, if a wheel has an impact on the build itself, then it has a rule whereby every different type of movement part you have reduces the perk. So with Bigfoots, for example, it reduces the distance requirement for activation of bonuses by 50%. Now, if you had a build with, say, all Bigfoots, 5 or 6 Bigfoots, then your perk would be what it is written down. But if you had a build where it had, say, half Bigfoots and half of something else, then you would only get half of the perk. So it would be like a 25% mitigation instead of 50. That is a good way to balance it. But they didn't include this with the torpedoes, for example. So with the torpedoes, you can have one torpedo on a build, or you can have 10. It doesn't matter. If you go 115 kilometers an hour, you're going to get 35% damage resist on the entire build. Even if you have only one torpedo and like 10 Bigfoots on it, it doesn't matter. It's ridiculous. I don't see how that didn't get included with the torpedo part and they didn't just test it beforehand because this is incredibly busted now. Someone at some point is going to figure out how to make a really sweaty Clan Wars version of this, whereby they've got, say, a torpedo in the middle, surrounded it on the outside by Bigfoots, and then, you've got a bunch of traction, you zoom in around, and you get the torpedo perk and the fin perk, and it's going to be really busted. And the worst thing of all for me is that the developers, you can really see how this is affecting the build if you just drive around in it. So, for example, if we drive around in the build and we take the Bigfoots off, you can see we're just driving around and the torpedoes do not impact on the ground because they're a hover. So there's no marks on the floor or anything like that. But if you put the Bigfoots on, you've got two big signs that something is going wrong with this build. Firstly, you can feel it, especially on controller. I don't know how mouses work, but on controller, when you got the vibration settings on, when you've got the Bigfoots equipped, it is always vibrating. You can tell that the wheel is impacting on the ground. And you can just hold down the handbrake with this thing if you want a little bit more control, basically. So with this build, if you're driving around in the open, you don't need to hold down the handbrake. You just drive like this and you get a bit more traction. If you want even more traction, you hold down the handbrake and you get even more for like close quarters. But also, there's a big sign, as you can see across the ground, we have tire marks. That is not from the hovercraft, that is from the Bigfoots dragging across the surface. So I don't see how the devs don't notice this. Like, how did they not figure this out? It took me, I looked at this build for like 20 seconds before I realized that, oh yeah, the Bigfoots are causing traction on the ground. So yeah, that's really disappointing, but we're going to run this now in probably in the 20 minutes or so of PvP just to give it a proper test up because this thing should be busted, you know? On the majority of maps in the game now, unless you're on the really, really small ones like Old Town, this is probably just going to be an even better punny car. And punny cars are already, you know, disgustingly strong in this game. So we'll jump into the games now, guys, and I hope you all enjoy. Right, so let's see how broken this is, shall we? You can actually hear the Bigfoot scraping across the ground. I might get annoying after a while, but it's the birth to build. Sorted. Now we cloak up, run away. Is that Poke still on the right? He is, that's annoying. Gang up onto this poor soul then. Oh, hey mate. Good thing I have all of the durability buffs you could ever want. Well, not durability buffs, resistance, I guess. Yeah, that felt busted. Where'd he go? You know, I'll be curious to see actually how good our control is with this vehicle compared to how it was in the video, like 2-3 days ago. Because in the video I did when I first used torpedoes, I was basically crashing into everything. But now, with a bit more practice on them, and we've got a lot more control from the Bigfoots, I'm guessing it's going to be really, really, like, big difference. Was that up? No, okay. Stab him. Use the Griffin to charge the Aegis again, because you can do that now for some reason. Don't collapse the bridge. Where is he? Oh, a bot. I hate these, what are they called? Ripper bots, that's it. Oh great, I'm dead. Thank you. Yeah, even after a couple of games, this thing feels quite overpowered. Because, like, it's a punny car, punny Aegis car, which is already overpowered enough, to be honest, even with its most recent nerfs. But on top of everything, you've got a really, really strong torpedo perk, and on top of that, you've got much better control than you would usually have with a torpedo. Like, how many advantages do you want? Because in close quarters like this, I'm just gonna hold down my handbrake, basically, just give me some more control. Alright, nice. Oh my god, hello, Echo. Pop my Griffin, just get back my perk. Where's he at? He's around here somewhere, I'm sure. Okay, no, he's going that way. Yeah, you can just hold down your handbrake if you want. It's really quite useful to be honest. Oh, there he is. There you go, sorted. Bet that perk came in quite useful then. Punishers are still king, obviously. I should stress as well that this isn't exactly like the most optimal build that you can get for it. Like, this build seems a bit of a rough cut. You could make a really sweaty Clan Wars build for this thing. And I think people are probably going to do that at some point. You know, it's like, I mean, it's a punny car, but with an even... Okay. That was an enemy fortune that happened on it. But yeah, as I was saying, it's a punny car, but with now you get a really insane torpedo pick alongside everything else. It's like, Jesus Christ. Why is our guy, like, charging 6 enemy players? I'd have stayed, mate, honestly. Please get off the fortunes. Oh, just give me a car then. Brock, get out the way. Alright, he's stripped, sorted. He's stripped, sorted. Okay, now he's stripped. Okay, too many wheels lost. I really don't understand why that guy deaded for start, but I also don't understand how the devs let stuff like this happen. Because like if you're bringing in a new movement part of the game, you'd imagine the first thing you'd think of, or one of the first things you'd think of, would be let's test it out with other movement parts, just to make sure, you know, something isn't broken. Because this always happens when they bring in a new movement. Like widgets, this happened. A bunch of other stuff, probably. Handbrake, let's go. Pop your Aegis and pop your Griffin, so you get your Aegis back faster. Right now we've got a fin whale and we've got torpedo perk. So like, what's he gonna do? You know? Nice. Dead. As a teammate, I do apologize. I'll just carve this guy. He looks like a master, maybe? Oh no, he's just normal story. He's just really tall. Right, we'll do a couple more then. But so far, this is just definitely better than like a regular torpedo, or like a full torpedo, I should say. And it isn't just like a placebo effect. I'm fully convinced it's giving you more traction. I do love how one of our guys just charged off to his death. I didn't think that bot would be able to shoot me. God, brilliant time on that one, Lou. What is that build? That's a pork, alright. I mean, as long as I don't charge into his cap guns, I'm completely fine. Wait a minute. Map. Guys AFK. Oh, two guys behind me. They're both porcupines? That's not good. Yeah, pokes still ain't very good. Right, of course, lost one out. But yeah, this thing feels like it needs to get fixed immediately. Because this is just a better punny car now with the OP torpedo perk, basically. A little less control, but again, with the Bigfoots, much more than like a full torpedo would be. Which is kind of busted. Oh, what the hell? This guy's just sending it. Alright, let's see. I've got torpedo perk, mate. Let's see if you strip a gun. Gotta go fast. There goes one gun. Yeah, not happening. Do I have a sparking gun? No, I don't. Can't say that's a surprise, though. Well, like 30% damage resist from the torpedoes, 50% damage resist from the fin whale. Billy extra 10% Dura. Could even have a Dura fuse as well. Right, and that is it for the Punisher Torpedo Bigfoot exploit. As you guys can see, it does feel a lot more solid than just having full torpedoes on a build. And that's with like very little practice on the movement part. It would not take you, it'll take you probably like a couple of hours at most before you get really, really good on something like this. And then you're moving around with no problem at all. You're really gonna crash on something like this. The devs need to fix this like immediately, in my opinion, because like I said, it's just a matter of time before someone uses this to quite literally break the game. The fact that you can have, you know, say you're a Punisher fused for Dura, you can have a durability fuse, a Billy durability, 35% damage resist from the torpedo, and then 50% damage resist from the fin whale, and you have like plenty of speed, plenty of power, and good traction from the Bigfoots. Like, Jesus Christ, it's just a matter of time before this thing gets really out of hand, and this should have been sorted before I even come into the game. Like, I don't know how that slips through. But either way, yeah, thank you all for watching, guys. Hope you all enjoyed the video, and I will catch you for tomorrow's.